There is a kind of woman who doesn't chase, yet is always pursued. Not because she plays games or hides her heart, because she has returned home to herself. In her presence, younger men feel something they didn't know they were starving for. Depth, kind of steady warmth that the world rarely offers. She is not louder, not faster, not more polished. She is simply clear. Why do younger men chase older women like her? It's not about age, it's about energy. About the invisible architecture of self, respect and stillness she has spent years building within. And if you stay with this journey until the end, you may begin to understand a rare truth. What if the power you seek in love is found in how quietly you hold yourself? In a world that is constantly asking us to do more, be more, and prove ourselves endlessly, there is a rare kind of power in simply being. Presence. The first key is not something that can be faked or performed. It is cultivated in stillness, in awareness, in the quiet returning to the breath. The older woman who carries presence does not enter a room with noise or flamboyance. She does not compete with younger beauty or louder voices. Instead, she becomes the quiet flame in the center of a cold night, not demanding warmth, but offering it. Presence is not a skill taught in schools. It is a state of being grown slowly through experience, hardship, and inner reflection, while others chase after attention. The woman who understands presence simply arrives fully, completely, with every breath. And in that wholeness, others feel drawn in, not by force, but by a gravitational calm. Younger men, especially in a world of fast images and shallow moments, feel something rare when they meet a woman who is there. Not chasing, not pretending, just present. There is an old story told in the mountain temples of the East. A young disciple asked the master, "How can I become magnetic? The great ones. How can I speak so all will listen, walk so all will follow?" The master led him to a still pond at dawn. "Drop a stone," he said. The boy did, and ripples spread outward. "Now," the master said, "still the water again." The boy tried, touching, swiping, splashing, but nothing worked. The pond only grew more disturbed. Finally, the master smiled. "Leave it, wait, do nothing." And as the sun rose, the pond returned to glass. Presence, the master said, is like this. You cannot create it by force. You become still, and the world reflects you. In daily life, you may have seen this kind of presence. The woman who does not raise her voice somehow silences the room. The one who walks slowly, but every step feels intentional. The grandmother who sits quietly at a gathering, and when she finally speaks, everyone leans in, not because of volume, but because of depth. A tree does not try to stand tall. It simply grows deep roots. In the same way, presence is not about pushing outward, but about drawing inward. The older woman who has cultivated presence has weathered many seasons. She no longer needs to be seen to feel real. She has become her own witness. The philosopher Lao Yan, lesser known but profoundly clear, once wrote, "When the heart rests in itself, emits a soundless bell, and those with listening hearts will hear." This is what presence does. It is not loud. It does not clamor. It resonates. And in that resonance, a younger man, often overstimulated, scattered, uncertain, finds something grounding. He may not be able to name it, but he feels it. It is the difference between someone who wants something from you and someone who offers something to you without needing a thing in return. Presence is not static. It breathes. It listens. It adapts. But it never betrays itself to be liked or validated. And when you encounter such a person, you do not forget them, because they made you feel more present with yourself. And that is a rare gift. As we continue this inward walk, we come to the second key: emotional grounding. If presence is the soil, grounding is the root. It is what keeps the spirit from being blown away by every passing wind. And in today's world, there are many winds: criticism, praise, temptation, fear. The grounded woman has learned not to sway with each gust. To be emotionally grounded does not mean to be cold or unfeeling. Quite the opposite. It means to feel fully without being ruled by every emotion. It means to be able to sit with joy without clutching it, and to sit with pain without becoming it. The older woman who is grounded has likely cried through nights when no one saw, faced betrayals without seeking revenge, and learned that emotions are like weather, powerful, but not permanent. A monk once told a parable of two bridges. One was made of stone, unmoving, proud. The other, made of bamboo, swayed with the wind. When a great flood came, the stone bridge cracked. The bamboo, though shaken, remained. Strength, he said, is not in resisting the current, but in flowing with it without losing your form. Emotional grounding is not resistance. It is flexibility with integrity. The grounded woman allows feelings to come like waves. She does not suppress them, nor does she drown. She observes, breathes, and responds, never reactively, always with intention. We see this in daily life in the woman who, when insulted, does not retaliate, calmly holds her center. The one who, when disappointed, does not collapse into despair but finds stillness within the storm. She has nothing to prove. Her peace is not situational. Younger men often live in a world where emotions are either repressed or explode unfiltered. To meet a woman who can hold her feelings and hold his without losing herself is like finding a warm fire in the middle of winter. He feels safer not because she protects him, but because her presence does not disappear under pressure. Nature, too, gives us this metaphor. Think of the ocean. On the surface, waves dance and crash, but go deep enough and the water is always still. The grounded woman lives from that depth. Her responses come not from the top layers, but from the quiet, knowing far beneath. An ancient Korean monk, Doham Sunam, once whispered, "When thunder strikes, the mountain does not shout back. It absorbs the sound and continues to stand." This is emotional grounding. It is not silence from suppression, but silence from strength. There is a subtle dignity in emotional stability, not the numbness of someone who has stopped feeling, the grace of one who has learned how to feel wisely, fully, and with care. And so we begin to see why these first two keys are not just attractive, they are as healing. Presence invites stillness. Grounding invites safety. Together, they create a space where others, including younger men, feel called to grow, to reflect, and to soften. This journey is not only about being pursued, it is about becoming. Becoming so whole that pursuit is merely a byproduct, not a goal. As the stream flows toward the sea, not because it chases, but because it is drawn by gravity. If you are listening and feel that these qualities seem distant or hard to attain, know this: presence and grounding are not traits. They are practices. They are choices made each day to breathe deeply, to pause before reacting, to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. And over time, they root you into yourself so deeply that nothing, no wind, no storm, no passing phase can shake your essence. In the quiet moments of the day, just before sleep, or while washing your hands, or during a walk, practice noticing. Noticing your breath, your emotions, your thoughts. Begin there, for that is where presence begins. And from presence, all else flows. To walk this path with grace is to understand that love is not found by running after it, nor is respect earned through loud declarations or bending to be chosen. The third key, sacred boundaries, is not a wall to keep others away, but a quiet temple where the self is honored. An older woman who embodies this has learned that her energy is a finite flame. She no longer gives it to every passing wind. She has faced the hollow spaces of overgiving, the ache of losing herself in pursuit of being enough, and from that fire she has forged a quiet law. Not all who seek entry deserve passage. Sacred boundaries are not the hardness of a heart closed off. They are the gentle fencing of a garden, not to keep love out, but to ensure that what grows within can flourish. She does not say no with bitterness, but with peace. She does not fear walking away when respect is absent, and because she no longer sacrifices herself to be accepted, love that arrives at her door must arrive with reverence. There is an old tale told in the shade of cedar forests. A master potter was famous not for how many vases he created, but for how few. A student asked, "Why do you make so little?" The potter replied, "I do not rush the clay. I do not force the form. I shape it only when my hands are steady and my mind is clean. I make few because I refuse to shape what will be cracked by carelessness." In the same way, a woman who honors her boundaries does not shape herself to fit others. She waits until what arrives is worthy of the space she guards. In the world we move through today, boundaries are often mistaken for barriers. But those who have lived long enough understand the deeper truth. When you do not define where you end, others will define it for you. An older woman who has learned this no longer apologizes for her space, her time, her standards. She does not chase, for she knows that anything real does not need to be forced. This inner calm becomes deeply attractive, not just to younger men, but to all who seek something stable in a shifting world. In daily life, you may recognize her in the woman who declines invitations without guilt, who leaves when disrespected without needing to explain, who loves with openness but never at the cost of her own light. This quiet self-respect moves like a river, not boastful, not loud, yet it shapes even the hardest stone. Nature teaches this too. The cactus blooms not in lush valleys, in dry deserts. Because it has learned to preserve its water, it does not offer itself to every hand. Yet when it blooms, does so brilliantly. The woman with sacred boundaries is like this. She does not withhold herself out of fear, but out of wisdom. And when she gives, it is not from depletion, but from overflow. A lesser-known saying from the Buddhist sage Ajahn Liam speaks to this too. Let others enter your peace. You must first know how to guard the gate. And this is her art, not building walls of bitterness, gates of discernment. She is soft where it is safe to be soft, and strong where strength is sacred. Younger men, often new to the terrain of emotional clarity, feel the uniqueness of this. She does not try to be easy to love. She is simply whole, and in her wholeness, they feel invited to grow, not to possess, but to rise to the level where love becomes real. From this temple of boundaries, we step gently into the fourth key, grace in silence. In a world addicted to noise, where every gap is filled with talk, with sound, with instant reply, the woman who is unafraid of silence becomes a rare melody. She has learned that silence is not emptiness. It is the language of presence, the song of still waters. Her silence is not passive. It is attentive. It is filled with listening, not just to others, but to the quiet rhythms of life itself. She knows that in silence, truth is often born. Where others rush to fix, to defend, to be understood, she pauses. She waits, and in that pause, transformation occurs. A Zen story tells of a warrior who visited a monk seeking wisdom. Teach me words that will make others fear me, respect me, obey me. The monk served him tea in silence. The warrior grew agitated. I asked for words, not tea. Still, the monk poured. Cup overflowed. Tea spilled. Finally, the warrior shouted, "Why are you not speaking?" The monk looked into his eyes and said softly, "Until your cup is empty, it cannot be filled." The silence, like the tea, was the teaching. The woman who has mastered grace in silence knows when to hold her tongue, not out of submission, but out of wisdom. She understands that some truths do not bloom when spoken too soon, that some wounds heal best in quiet. She does not speak just to fill space. When she speaks, it is like the strike of a temple bell, clear, necessary, and felt long after the sound has faded. In real life, such a woman might sit through conflict without escalating it. She might allow a man to fumble with his own emotions without jumping in to rescue him from discomfort. She creates space, and in that space, others begin to see themselves more clearly. Nature mirrors this again. Consider the moon. It makes no sound. It does not shine through its own power, but by reflection. Yet, even in silence, it moves oceans. It changes tides. Its presence is felt in every pool of water on earth. Such is the power of silence held with grace. A rarely quoted line from the teachings of Dijen Zenji, the 13th century Japanese monk, captures this well. To speak truly, one must first master the language of stillness. She has done this, and because of that, her words carry weight. They are not thrown like stones in a crowd, but placed like pebbles in the palm, each one meant, each one meaningful. To younger men, and to anyone still learning the value of inwardness, this kind of woman becomes a mirror. Not the kind that flatters, but the kind that reflects the parts most people avoid, and it is in that reflection that they grow. Her silence does not manipulate. It teaches, it heals, it invites depth. In her quiet, others are not silenced. They are awakened. As we walk through these teachings, we begin to understand that attraction, when rooted in stillness, clarity, and self-honoring, becomes something deeper than charm. It becomes a kind of sacred magnetism, not the spark of a moment, but the glow of a flame that has learned to burn steady through wind and time. The older woman who lives these truths does not need to convince others of her worth. Her presence, her grounding, her boundaries, her silence all speak louder than any words. She does not chase, she does not cling, she simply is. And in being fully herself, she invites others to do the same. Let this be your invitation to, not just to admire such wisdom, but to become it. To pause, to return, to know your boundaries not as barriers, but as blessings. To speak less so your presence says more, and to realize that the quiet power you seek may already be waiting in the still spaces within you. Listen, not with your ears, but with your breath. You may begin to hear your own voice again. To truly see is not with the eyes alone. It is a vision that reaches inward, not outward. A perception beyond surfaces, where understanding pierces illusion. The fifth key, eyes that see through the surface, reveals a quality not of observation but of recognition. An older woman who has walked through the layers of life, joy and sorrow, gain and loss, betrayal and truth, develops a gaze that sees not only what is there, but also what is missing. She sees with the wisdom of someone who has been both the seeker and the one being sought. And in her seeing, others often find themselves revealed. This depth of perception does not come from judgment, but from experience. She has learned not to be fooled by charm, nor impressed by decoration. Where others may be captivated by performance, she looks for essence. She notices what is not said. She watches how one listens, how one treats silence, how one moves in stillness. She sees not because she is trying to analyze, but because she is deeply present, and presence sharpens all vision. There is a tale of an old calligrapher who could draw a single character that made emperors weep. A young scribe asked, "What ink do you use? Brush gives your lines such soul." The master replied, "I dip my brush not in ink, but in stillness. I do not write the character. I wait until it appears in me, and then I follow it onto the page. To see with clarity is like this, not to seek the surface lines, but to feel the shape of truth within. In daily life, this woman might meet a younger man who presents confidence, ambition, and success. She does not simply respond to what is shown. She observes how he listens when someone else speaks. She notices whether his eyes soften when a child cries or whether they glaze over. She notices whether his strength protects or dominates, whether his words lift or distract. Her vision, refined through time and silence, is not searching for perfection, but for presence of heart. Nature, too, offers this lesson. Think of a deep well. From the outside, it may appear like any other hole in the ground. But only when you peer into it quietly do you begin to see the water at its bottom, still, cool, and clear. The woman with vision like this does not rush to label or judge. She waits. And in that waiting, she sees what is true. A passage from the Taoist master Lai Tu echoes this insight. The wise do not look at the mask. They look at the breath behind it, the stillness between words, the thread that runs beneath. This kind of vision cannot be taught quickly. It is cultivated over years of looking within, for it is only through knowing her own illusions that she now sees through the illusions of others. To the younger man who is used to quick admiration, this kind of gaze is unnerving, yet deeply alluring. Because she does not flatter. She does not mirror back his best side. She simply sees. And when one is truly seen, without pretense, without performance, something ancient awakens. He may not even understand what is being stirred within him, but he feels it, a pull to drop the mask, to show the soul. This is not a gaze that controls or captures. It is a gaze that liberates. It asks, can you be real here? Can you stand before someone who sees through your defenses? And not be diminished, but expanded. This woman sees not because she wants to judge, but because she wants to meet what is authentic. And authenticity, once seen, rarely retreats. It longs to stay in that rare light. And from this seeing, we arrive gently into the sixth key, a rhythm of her own. Final note is not loud, but it lingers. It is the way she walks, not in haste but with intent. It is the cadence of her life, slow, deliberate, shaped not by urgency, but by meaning. She does not move by the ticking of clocks or the pressure of trends. Her rhythm has been shaped by seasons, by silence, by times when she had to wait, when she had to endure, when she had to choose patience over impulse. And now she is no longer swayed by the rush of the world. Instead, she invites the world to meet her tempo. There is a story told by mountain monks of a woman who planted a cherry tree beside a barren path. The villagers mocked her. You will not live to see its blossom, they said. She smiled and said, I do not plant it for me. I plant it for the one who will one day rest in its shade. Years passed. The woman died. But one spring, long after, travelers paused under that tree and wept. The rhythm of her life had outlived her, because she lived not for the moment's applause, but for the deeper legacy of peace. To move with your own rhythm is not to be slow, it is to be aligned. To act when it is time, pause when reflection is needed, to create space between stimulus and response. The older woman who embodies this rhythm no longer rushes to fill silences, nor leaps to answer every call. She waits, not because she is unsure, but because she is steady. And in her steadiness, others begin to slow down too. In the forest, the ancient tree does not sway to every breeze. It has found its center. Birds return to it not because it moves, but because it stands. Such is her energy. She is not stagnant. She is rooted. And from her root, life flows in its own time. A lesser known quote from the Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi speaks to this. The flying bird leaves no sound. Its path is known by the wind. Her presence is like this. She moves quietly, yet her influence is unmistakable. Not because she is loud, but because she is true. In the eyes of a younger man, this rhythm may feel unfamiliar. He is used to speed, to urgency, to conquest. But when he enters her presence, he begins to breathe differently. He slows, he listens more. He forgets for a moment the race he was running and begins to remember the path he had long forgotten. She walks not ahead nor behind. She simply walks her own way, and in doing so, she becomes a beacon. Not one that shouts, "Follow me," but one that says, "Here is a way of being that brings peace." And that quiet call is sometimes louder than all the world's noise. This rhythm touches everything. The way she pours tea, the way she answers a question, the way she stands alone without apology. And because she does not seek to be hurried, she becomes timeless. In her presence, time seems to stretch. Moments feel fuller. Conversations linger like incense in the air. And this, perhaps, is what truly draws others to her, not her age, nor her experience. The spaciousness she offers simply by being aligned with her own rhythm. She is not a storm. She is not a performance. She is not a chase. She is the quiet unfolding of a lotus in the early dawn, unseen by most, unforgettable to the few who pause to look. The journey we walk through these 6 keys leads us here, to the temple of slowness, to the sanctuary of still seeing, to the grace of unforced time. In a world that moves too quickly to notice its own heartbeat, the woman who has mastered her rhythm becomes a reminder of the music beneath the noise, the meaning behind the motion. If you find within yourself a longing for this way of being, do not chase it. Sit with it. Breathe into it. Begin with one small act of slowing down. Let your vision deepen, not by straining, but by softening. And soon your life too may begin to flow to a rhythm that is not borrowed, not imposed, but wholly and beautifully your own. In this way, you do not merely learn these teachings, you become them.